These are the famous spires of Cambridge, supposedly one of the finest centres of learning in the world, the place that gave us Sir Isaac Newton, one of the most brilliant scientists ever, a humble farm lad who went on from Trinity College in Cambridge to literally change the world with his 3 laws of motion and his law of universal gravitation. Stephen Hawking, Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge from 1979 until 2009, who is regarded as one of the world's most famous theoretical physicists and cosmologists. And of course, Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary biology. All these characters would, of course, I imagine, be spinning in their graves if they saw the antics of one of Cambridge University's most recent graduates, Louise Harris, who, despite, or no doubt because of, her time in the hallowed corridors of Cambridge University, decided to hop on top of a gantry across London's terrifying M25 motorway to achieve, well, not a lot.
Hello, my name is Louise. I'm 24 years old, and I'm here because I don't have a future. And you might hate me for doing this, and you're entitled to hate me. But I wish you would direct all that anger and hatred at our government. They are betraying young people like me. I would love to be there if they did their lawful duty to their own citizens. I'm part of the Just Stop Oil Coalition, demanding an end to all new oil and gas licences in the UK. What we're asking for is what all the scientists are asking for, what the United Nations are asking for, the International Energy, the IPCC. How many more people have to say, we don't have a livable future if you continue licensing oil and gas for you to listen? Why does it take young people like me up on a gantry on the M25 for you to listen?
This is the triumph of stupidity and ignorance over science and reality, the triumph of hysteria over reason, the triumph of narcissism over reflection and concentration, the triumph, sadly, of hormones maybe, over grey matter, not sure what, emotions. But, as I mentioned the other evening on this show, Louise Harris is by no means alone.
I am one person, I'm locked onto one car, and the entrance to this tunnel is blocked.
I just don't know if they're going to do anything. And I'm so concerned with the fact that if they're not going to change anything, then what's going to happen to humankind? What's going to happen to the whole world?
What is worth more, art or life? Is it worth more than food? Worth more than justice?
These girls all have one thing in common: their chronic terror of climate change overshadows their intellectual ability to see reason about climate change. Indeed, it is well known that fear is the one instinct that can often dull our ability to think rationally and calmly, to employ reason. So what is it exactly that these girls are so afraid of? I also played you the other evening this clip, but I've been inundated with people saying, I can't believe that, can you please play it again? This is the mentor to those kids. This is their guru. His name is Roger Hallam, the man behind Extinction Rebellion, and behind Just Stop Oil, and behind Animal Rebellion, and behind a whole bunch of other activist organisations that recruit these young kids in our colleges and from our schools. Passionate, well-educated girls, many of them, from universities, from schools, and then terrorise them into performing these mad sort of activities. I don't actually see Roger Hallam up on the gantry risking his life. Here he is telling his followers what will happen to them within their lifetimes, presumably, when societies all collapse because of climate change.
The other thing about social collapse is the complete loss of material security, or law and order, as you might say. So what will happen is episodes where someone, a gang of young men, come into your house, they take your girlfriend, they take your mother, they put her onto the table, and they gang rape her in front of you. And then after that, they take a hot stick and they poke out your eyes and they blind you. That's the reality of the annihilation project that you face.
Xeon Lights is another relatively young English woman, a former student, not at Cambridge, but at the University of Reading, and also a former follower of Roger Hallam. Xeon was one of the leading members of Extinction Rebellion back around 2019, when their demonstrations brought London to a halt and made headlines around the world. But then an amazing thing happened. She had a light bulb moment, quite literally, when she was asked by the Spectator's Andrew Neil on British television whether she had ever thought about nuclear energy to solve climate change.
Extinction Rebellion protesters have brought Westminster to a standstill with a storm of their own, descending in their thousands on the heart of government, where they plan to see out a full 2 weeks of carefully coordinated disruption, the latest in a worldwide effort to tackle the climate change problem. I'm now joined by Xeon Lights. She's a spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion. Welcome. I've seen some of your activists claim on TV that billions of people are going to die in quite short order. One of your founders, Roger Hallam, said in April, our children are going to die in the next 10 to 20 years. What's the scientific basis for these claims?
So these claims have been disputed, admittedly. There are some scientists who are agreeing, and there are some who are saying that they're simply not true.
Xeon was smart enough not to buy into those extremist claims. But clearly she was uncomfortable with her colleagues' demented climate alarmism. However, it was later in the interview, after Neil posed an innocent enough question about nuclear energy, that Xeon Light's entire life changed. Rather than gluing herself to another sidewalk, she decided to explore the real science. The science of energy, the science of atoms, the science of Einstein. And almost overnight, she became as passionate about nuclear energy as she is about climate change. Indeed, she appeared at CPAC a month ago in Sydney, advocating for nuclear energy. And on Outsiders, she has repeatedly challenged the hopeless Chris Bowen to actually have a debate on nuclear energy. She would wipe the floor with him.
I'm in this movement where people say, climate action now, and then they block the biggest thing that could help with their cause, which is building nuclear power stations.
So I was intrigued to see this headline today, that the engineering giant Rolls-Royce, yes, the famous car manufacturer, are now seeking to build 30 mini nuclear reactors across Britain by 2030 in order to kickstart a nuclear revolution. I might remind you, that means net zero emissions. The tragedy is that even as the jet setters of the world pour into Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt to sip champagne and guzzle down their steaks and lobsters, it is brave and intelligent young women like Xeon Lights who actually can see the scientific way forward. But instead, all we get is more ignorance.
You say, and I'm not polluting. And I say, where do you get the electricity from? And they don't know. They don't know that most of America's electricity comes from fossil fuels, natural gas and coal. Just 12% comes from wind and solar. Yet auto companies tell us
electric vehicles in general are better and more sustainable for the environment.
She's a Ford engineer. She's not ignorant.
Well, actually, she probably is ignorant in the literal sense of the word. She's not stupid, but ignorance speaks to what you know. You have to mine somewhere on Earth 500,000 pounds of minerals and rock to make one battery.
And most of this mining isn't done in the U.S. American regulations make it nearly impossible. So it's done other places, polluting those countries. And worse, ingredients in batteries are mined in places that enslave people and use child labor.
An army of children are at the heart of the mining production, wearing no shoes and in the most wretched conditions.
Most Americans proudly driving electric cars don't know about this. They just don't want mining done near them. But wherever it's done, mining is a dirty business that adds lots of carbon to the air.
There you have it. Now, on a slightly lighter note, I am thrilled to say that I have just solved all your Christmas present dramas. Sarah Dudley, the covers editor at the Spectator Australia, has just released this magnificent coffee table book, fresh off the printing presses this morning. It's called Take Cover. And it's all the very best covers of the Spectator Australia from the last 8 years in all their glory. Funny, shocking, tragic, poignant. It's a must-have. Covers about COVID, covers about climate change, about all the craziness of the coalition and Labor, about our elections, immigration, you name it. And all accompanied by fascinating insights into the stories behind the covers. It's out in hardback and it's out in paperback. Both are amazing. And as I said, it's an absolute must-have under the Chrissy tree. Order it tonight from wilkinsonpublishing.com.au. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed.